This video is brought to you in part by Squarespace. Yeah, you're probably pretty familiar with that name by now on this channel, and that's no surprise. I love working with these guys, and I love their program. Long and short of it, if you're trying to get yourself a website online, Squarespace are the people you want to work with. I've personally always been intimidated at the idea of even starting a website, but these guys got me up and going within half an hour. I spend more time on character creators in video games. It takes you just a handful of minutes to get the basics, and they walk you through everything, no matter how intricate you want to get. They have a ton of preset designs that you can just get up and going at your heart's content, and it all looks super professional. And for those of you who want to get a little bit more bold and creative, you can go behind the curtains and tweak every little thing to your heart's content. If you're trying to put together a shop, portfolio, or whatever, they have tools that can track your growth, help you build an ad campaign, integrate with other social media platforms, and again, all of that is streamlined and easy to understand. It takes very little effort to get something clean and professional up in front of the world. Having your own domain name looks super sexy on a business card. And to make it even easier, if you head over to squarespace.com/gameapologist, you'll get 10% off your first purchase. Seriously, you could get this done in the time it takes you to watch this video. Thank you again to Squarespace for helping out, and on with the show. On March 31st, the Sonic Twitter account made a very mysterious tweet saying they heard our feedback and were taking Sonic in a new direction. Later on in the day, even before April 1st rolled around, we were then presented with the corpse of the Sega mascot, as well as the name of the game, The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog, which, hey, probably a more fitting title for other Sonic games, but this was quite bold and real. The game's real, not the murder. And also, spoilers throughout this entire video, so if you haven't played it yet, go do that. Shocking name aside, Sonic had literally been much more dead a handful of times in previous titles. And all things considered, Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog is a very tame game. But, again, a very real game. I gotta be honest, I do appreciate a clever joke, and I used to really enjoy April Fools quite a bit. But more and more, as the years go on, brand accounts use that day to tease products for very starved fan bases or lead us on with false information, and nowadays the holiday is just painful. Can't trust anything online and always have to be cautious for the next few days on Twitter thanks to lingering posts showing up late in news feeds. Still pretty salty about that Jet Set Radio comic, but I can't say the same about the Sonic social media team, who are probably more justified than most others if they wanted to really hate on their fan base, but instead they made something special. When I first saw this on my newsfeed, I assumed murder was just this one single Family Guy death pose meme, and that was that. But nope, it's a whole ass game. And I will give these guys even further props. They do have a pretty solid track record of backing up their April Fools with genuine products. Anyone remember Chili Dog G Fuel? I do. God, do I remember. And not only did they give us a new game, but it's also completely free, and I dare say one of the most solid Sonic games of recent memory. Yeah, that's not fair to compare this to Frontiers or even Origins. It's not one for one, but let's not sell Murder short here either. There's far more effort here than you'd expect from a project like this. But yeah, I've rambled on a bit without actually explaining what this game's supposed to be. So to put it simply, it's a murder mystery visual novel with extremely light mechanics, but also managing to sneak in some bona fide classic Sonic gameplay and difficulty thanks to these little special stage runner sections. I'll get to all that a bit later, but as a visual novel, obviously the plot and characters take far more priority than elaborate mechanics. And it's simple enough. Sonic and his pals are on a train, the Mirage Express, to have a murder mystery party in celebration of Amy Rose's birthday, who I guess was born on April 1st, because she's a joke. I'm kidding, I do love Amy, but I love riling Amy fans up way more. Yeah, I know, I'm known as a Sally fan, but that doesn't mean I can't like both characters. And hey, don't think I don't see some of you haters out there shaming us simp monks, but at the same time getting all hot and bothered for the different animal women as they play dress up for this game. Dirty hypocrites, the whole lot of you. We're all Sonic fans, we're already sick weirdos, you're not better than me. Also, like, Rouge. Does she even count as a furry when outside of her head, she clearly doesn't have any fur? Unless she's hiding some hairy bat boobs under that shirt there. Outside of Amy, most of the main cast is here. We also have Sonic, obviously, as well as Tails, Knuckles, Rouge, Shadow, Vector, Espio, and even Blaze. They're all in attendance. And legit, I cannot blame fans for being excited to see these characters in new costumes. We rarely see them deviate from their default designs. So already, this is a lot of fun. And you can tell the artist had a great time designing these characters. And yeah, obviously the art on display here is just fantastic. This is a very pretty little game. Anyway, outside of the regular trailers, we are also introduced to a couple of new characters. The conductor, who never actually gets a name, these robot hands, which kind of represent the train and its AI, and the brand new dining car attendant, which acts as the player character, as you'll be playing the game entirely from their perspective. And they're named, well, whatever you want to name them. Just as long as it's not a curse word, game won't allow it. So I named my little dude Blunk, which isn't a curse word, but I hope someday it will be. Also, I spent way too much time in the hospitality industry. There's no way a luxury train would allow for a hand-scribbled name tag. And all they have to use is a microwave. It's fine. That does at least put the food on par with Applebee's. And they do have a saloon, where Vector, Knuckles, and Rouge all have drinks. They don't explicitly say that they're alcoholic, but let's be real, I could see all of those characters getting a bit buzzed to take the edge off a silly costume party like this. Sonic characters get shit-faced. Everything is canon. The gameplay is simple enough. You'll be working your way through each train cabin, searching for evidence and interrogating characters with said evidence, finally breaking them in with that special stage-style game I mentioned before. If you're used to Phoenix Wright or any other game in this style, all of this will be very familiar and in super baby form. It's a very, very easy game with no real fail state. You can use the wrong evidence or fail the special stages, but you don't run out of lives or get a game over screen where you have to start from the beginning. Nothing like that. As far as evidence collecting is concerned, all you really have to do is move your mouse around a room until it highlights something. Then you click it and add that thing to your inventory, which is handy as you'll need to use this to pour over specific details of different pieces of evidence. But yeah, like I said, even if you don't know what you're looking at or what piece of evidence you have to use, you literally could just keep guessing until you pick the right one. As you work your way through dialogue, it will occasionally give you multiple choice questions, and again, they don't really matter. No wrong answers here. It just helps spice up the dialogue a little bit on occasion. So, like I said, you're basically just clicking through a lot of dialogue and occasionally pretending to play a game. But there is some genuine challenge here, and it comes in the form of these special stage minigames, which represent you solving questions and coming up with ideas. Here, you move Sonic left to right to collect rings and avoid obstacles. All you gotta do is collect enough rings to pass. And it's easy enough at first, but the challenge does step up as the game goes on. Also love that there are hazards that appear that represent different characters that you're interrogating, like Ninja Stars for SBO or Chaos Spears for Shadow. And also just realize, considering all the checkerboard environments I've seen Sonic run through, this might be the first time I've seen black and white tiles, which seems weird, right? That should be the most classic of tiles, and I don't know, I just think it looks classy. I like this. But like I said, these do get kinda difficult later on in the game. Not only do they ramp up in ring count and hazards, but they become much more frequent, especially in the endgame section. And I think their layout is pretty brilliant. These were a lot of fun to play through. My only real gripe with them is the perspective and how you have to play them. Since this is a PC game, you use the spacebar to jump and the WASD keys to move. And even then, you only need 2 of those keys as you only move in 2 directions. So you could use either WS or AD and you'll be just fine. But all that said, this diagonal setup throws me off a little bit, and well, honestly, I'm just a little bit more used to a controller. Would have preferred it, but that doesn't mean these stages are impossible, not by any means. I was quite surprised with just how much traditional Sonic gameplay was packed into all of these stages. Like I said, even though they're quite simple, I think the layouts are very well crafted, and I found the sprite work very charming. So yeah, even if you're looking for something a little bit more Sonic-y in the gameplay department, this game kinda has you covered. But the main draw is going to be the visual novel element. As I said before, everyone is here to participate in a murder mystery, and they are all dressed in costumes representing the roles they will be playing. And each has been provided a lore card, which gives them a unique backstory and a set of actions. Amy plays a reporter, Tails a detective, which yes is pretty funny considering they have 2 actual detectives in the cast that never actually do any detective work. And speaking of, Vector is a butcher, and SBO is a poet who has no straight explanation for that outfit. Actually, it does kind of remind me of Knights a little bit here. Doubt that was intentional, but just something my brain picked up on. Looks good on him. Rouge and Blaze play entrepreneurs or business folks, something like that. Knuckles is a sheriff, Shadow's a locksmith, and Sonic plays a corpse, dressed like Donald Duck. Obviously, from the title, you already know who plays the murder victim, but it will be up to the birthday girl and the detective to figure out who plays the murderer. Blunk is excused from the culprits, seen as they are a train employee, but you still spend most most of your time following around Tails as he pieces the mystery together. Seeing as Sonic is dead for most of the game, you spend a surprisingly little amount of time with the blue hedgehog, which is actually quite a nice change of pace. And it makes the scenes where he is present that much more impactful. And let's be real, the rest of the cast is pretty starved for attention, so it was nice to spend more time with them and in such an interesting scenario. This is a far more casual situation than a lot of fans are used to, and it gives us a great chance to see them all socialize. I always love seeing different characters have unique interactions, and this game is the perfect way to display exactly that. The story itself, as I said, is tame, and you're not going to come across any major revelations or huge drama between anybody. The stakes are very low, but just seeing these characters written right goes a long way for a lot of fans. And let's be real, you couldn't get away with a visual novel with poorly written characters. Amy feels a lot more like Amy to me. Like she's the type of person who would go all out for her birthday and fully embrace the title of birthday girl. Tails looks like he's having a lot of fun putting his brain to use as a detective. Knuckles embarrasses himself while trying to put on a stupid voice just for Amy's sake. Rouge just wants to steal things, which is totally normal, but I love that she kinda corrupts Blaze a little bit whenever they hang out. That's a fun dynamic. I'm glad they put those two characters together. It really feels like a genuine friendship is starting to bud there. And speaking of friends, Espio and Vector feel like longtime pals that just get each other. And the poet part Espio plays feels like he gets a chance to show a side of himself that's been dying to get out. And honestly, I'm here for it. We already have enough stoic characters in the Sonic cast, so seeing Espio branch out a bit was a lot of fun here. He does get a lot of attention. I think we're going to see a swell of Espio fans after this game. And yeah, alright, Shadow. I swear to God, this fan base lives or dies depending on the depiction of this one guy. Well, I'm happy to report, I think they struck a happy balance between quiet, cold, collected, and those subtle hints of a warmer side, especially in this setting. Shadow isn't on a mission here. He showed up to celebrate a friend's birthday. You wouldn't see anything like that in his earlier IDW interpretations. That alone is a big step, but I also love the mystery he tries to keep hidden. I personally wouldn't consider this a big spoiler, but again, I know how big of a deal some of this stuff is to fans, so once again, you have been warned. If you have the means to play this game and you haven't yet, stop the video, go play it. It's a couple hours, come back after that. Alright, so as it turns out, Shadow was trying to keep Amy away while he ordered tickets to her favorite band. He had arrived to the party seeing that everyone else got her gifts, and he hadn't. He had remembered Amy saying that she missed out on seeing this band before, and I think this is just a sweet little moment. Not only is Shadow here for a birthday party, but he actually takes the time to remember something Amy just casually said. And I also love that Amy ends up inviting Shadow to see the band with her once she finds out what he was really up to. I have to imagine Shadow and Amy shippers lost their minds at this scene. And yeah, I think that'd be a cute couple. Heck, a good old-fashioned love triangle would be a lot of fun to read. But hey, even if they're just friends, I know a lot of fans were desperate to see even an inkling of compassion from Shadow. And I think this was handled quite well. This does feel like this was written by people who deeply understand these characters, and also understand how important these characters are to the rest of the fan base. Shipping nonsense aside, Amy is the one character that managed to reach through to Shadow and help remind him of Maria and her compassion for life. I'd like to think Shadow has a great deal of respect for Amy Rose, even if he doesn't always vocalize it. And honestly, I think that's a major theme for this short little game. It's centered on Amy's birthday, and this girl is all about love, and it's all about the connections these characters have to one another. And that's only further emphasized in the last little bit of the game's story. So again, one last time, spoilers. Seriously, this is a 2-hour game. Go play it. Alright, so let's rewind a little bit here. You start off introducing yourself to the colorful cast of characters, with the conductor letting you know it's his last day of work after 32 years of service on this train. And the game even points out that you are kind of useless because the train, as we quickly see, can basically do everything by itself. I mean, you're a dining car attendant and all you're really doing is working a microwave. The robotic hands are serving treats in the dining car, serving drinks at the saloon, cleans up any mess that's made. It can even detect any weapons brought on board. It's pretty advanced stuff. Anyway, things start off chill enough, but just as you finish learning the rules of the game, the train suddenly speeds up, knocking Blunk, Tails, and Amy into the closet of the dining car, knocking them all out. As you and Tails come to, you work your way through investigating how you ended up here, and after interrogating Amy, you learn that she attempted to smash her way out of the room, but her hammer broke, which normally would be weird, but this is a backup hammer, and look, it's not important. This is mostly here just to show you how the game works, but also wanted to point out that Tails literally has a mantra of WWSD. What would Sonic do? I'm not kidding. I mean, the dude has come back from the dead a few times already. I suppose he would be a little bit of a messiah. He's had like, what, 2, 3 resurrections? Take that, Jesus. Oh, and you find him dead as you exit the closet. Tails and Amy just think he's really playing into the role of the murder victim, but Blanc holds back for just a second to hear him meekly mumble something before carrying on. I'm not going to hit all the story points here. I mean, I mostly covered everything I wanted to pick apart with the characters, so yeah, just be kind of redundant. But yeah, from here, you and Tails move through the train from car to car, meeting characters as you go along. Knuckles in the saloon, Vector and Espio in the library, Rouge and Blaze in the casino, and Shadow and Amy in the lounge. And after all that, things finally come together in the conductor's car, where the conductor is nowhere to be seen. As it turns out, and seriously, last time, spoilers, the murderer in question turns out to be Espio, who took his job a little bit too seriously and drugged Sonic with a poison dart. And he did it at the absolute worst time because Sonic had just discovered there was genuine danger on the train from the train itself. Turns out it's actually a badnik, meaning it is indeed powered by a little flicky. And Eggman had convinced the train to bring Sonic and his friends to Eggy's fortress, and in return, the train would continue to work with the conductor. Guess Thomas the Tank Engine has some separation anxiety, I don't know. Sonic discovered this, and then got drugged and knocked out, and then the hands of the train battered his ass around and threw him into the dining cart. So he was drugged and beaten, and his closest friends just walked by his busted ass and said, "Ah, he's fine." And after you discover all this, this is where Sonic regains consciousness and is back in play. The train speeds up and traps all of his friends into the different cars. This prompts a special stage mini gauntlet, and it's actually pretty challenging. This was a lot of fun, and it kicked my ass a couple times. And it even incorporates the train as a boss fight as you move through the stages. Eventually, Sonic rescues his friends and takes the train down, and somewhat tragically, the robot is destroyed while apologizing to the conductor. It just didn't want to lose his longtime friend. And yeah, I suppose there are some parallels to the bittersweet saga of Gamma, but it does make me wonder, the more these stories play around with badniks, the more they throw around the idea that these robots are sentient, separate from the little animals that run them. And if these robots are sentient, how many murders are on Sonic's gloved hands? Murder of Sonic, nothing. This game should be called The Genocidal Crimes of Sonic the Hedgehog. Also, that left me wondering, if this had been a badnik this entire time, does that mean that little flicky had been powering this train for 32 years? I mean, the conductor greets the flicky like an old friend, so I mean, probably, right? Got some pretty dark implications from this game. Not the world building I was expecting. And like, genuinely, there are some fun little bits of world building here. Apparently, Eggman does actually run some legitimate businesses. Tails says that Eggy builds casinos all the time. And apparently, it's not uncommon to just see Eggman logos on poker chips. They're just standard. And obviously, they hit me right in the heart with a lovely reference here and there. My favorites, of course, being references to old Western canon. We get a "let's do it to it" in one of the dialogue options, and in the dresser in the lounge that leads to a secret entrance, we see a conductor coat with red cuffs instead of the yellow we see on the character normally, which looks a lot like Antoine's coat, which in turn is just the Mobian military design. My chum Channel Pup did point out that this is just a standard military uniform. I'm not sure for what country, but all the same, knowing the Sonic social media team, I feel like they had to know what they were doing, and I appreciate it. Those light nods may be all I ever get for those old characters, so I'm thankful to get anything at all. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Unleash fans, especially, you're gonna find a lot of love here. And we could pick apart a bunch of other references or more thoroughly examine characterization, but the fact that any of this is here is worth celebrating. April Fool's joke this may be, but the social media team has made one of the greatest Sonic spin-off games to ever grace the franchise. Obviously, it's kid-friendly and it's tame, but it's clever and full of heart, and I genuinely hope this makes Sega pay a bit more attention to these ridiculously talented and passionate folks, as clearly they know what they're doing. I love seeing the series branch out and get a bit more daring and a little bit more creative. That's the kind of Sonic I grew up with, and now we got folks at Sega who grew up loving the series. And I hope Sega continues to let them share their love, because man, this was great. This is easily one of the most complete packages we've gotten from the franchise in a very long time. It's a good time to be a Sonic fan, especially when he's murdered. And that's gonna do it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching the video. Be sure you support this game. Even if you don't have the means of playing it yourself, it's not hard to track down the creative folks behind the scenes. Go follow the Sonic social media stuff over on Twitter, Instagram, or I don't know where they are, but go track down the artists, go track down the storytellers, developers, all those guys. If anything stood out to you in this game, I promise you, whoever made it is eager to show you how that came together and some more insane work they probably have somewhere. And again, if this was your first ever visual novel and you had a good time, branch out yourself. There's an entire genre worth exploring and some amazing games you should check out. Mentioned it earlier, but a great place to start is the Phoenix Wright series, or hey, go read Murder on the Orient Express, or at least watch one of the movies. Nothing quite like a good old-fashioned whodunit. Just in a good mood. I love fun projects like this. It really goes to show that Sonic not only works as a video game character, but he works in different genres, even in ones you wouldn't expect to see him. I think it's stuff like this that shows us that not only is he a great character, but he does work as a game character. It's not rocket science. You just need talented, passionate people behind the scenes and you're gonna get a great product. Well, okay, probably time and money as well. Also very important in the game industry. And before I go, I need to shout out these amazing people who keep my train running. The folks over on Patreon. Thank you guys so much for your support. And hey, if you do have the means and you do want to help the channel out, gonna have a link in the description to the Patreon, get you Discord access, videos a little bit early, and some other fun stuff. I'm trying to figure out ways to really branch that out. So yeah, if you got any ideas, let me know. And hey, extra special shout out to these conductors here: Kyle Winter, Cyrus the Skeptic, Joseph Duncan Sonic 2 Blue, John, Josh Strider, Murder Monroe, Faizan Razul, Hatsworth, Tiny Jericho, Ginger Bob, Jack of All Spades, Tristan Trapp, Meekers, Dun Dun, Quote, Resident Fanboy, Miles the Prower, Jeremy Singer, Mr. Boojay, Sam Webster, Dwight Graham, Fishflop, Lucas Lipker, The Bad Pal, Jonathan Dobbs, Haley, Mr. Dr. SP, Dr. Pending, Cecil the Glade, The Dark Neon, Stefan Plakanica, 3 Monic, Graham J. Hall, Lenny X, Wayne is Boss, Jamie Chevalier, Lederick, Game Apologist 20 Covers, Jimmy Duke STR, The Lumberjack, NBTV, Butte, Trash Baphomet, Autumn from Twitter.com, Boatin, I'm not reading that, Enerjack 5, Grayson Conager, Spades the Nocturne, Ken K, Ven 101, Paxton Bisbee, Sindarin 7, a small Icklebickle Bunby who is staring at you. Stop thinking about the knife, it's rude. 3 Rule 4, Twilord, Number 1 Boss Baby Fan, Paisley, Eric Delgado, Cody Gracious, Kodinsky, Jamo Art, PK Durbar, Crimson Rose, Give Up Your Children, Separate, Sonic PAJ, Moonicent, Ga Roxas the Cat, Godzilla, Makuta of Salt, Gleam the Anomaly, Alexander Watson, Calais Presley, Neil Gampa, Conan Kudo, Sharif Pi, Aeon 3 Valafor, Infamous.jpg, the Lex, the most powerful ship in the 2 universes, Native Nerd 27, Kaido Prower, Swift Cannon, Spearmint, someone having fun being an incorrigible lunatic just outside the door of your recording studio with a paintball gun, Omega Man 21, N, Clumsy, Penn Adelaide, a person named June, and other envelope. Once again, thank you guys so much for your support. I'm really excited for the stuff we got coming up here. I decided we're not quite done with Mecha March Madness. I think we're just gonna have a good old-fashioned Mechathon because I gotta get a couple more videos out about some Sonic robots, so expect to see that real soon. But gonna take a little bit of a breather. My birthday's in a couple days, and I just want to kind of relax a little bit. Who knows, maybe I'll throw a murder mystery party. Well, until next time, toot toot, Sonic Warriors. Hey, Hey, the toot toot actually worked. Because of the train? That's adorable.